If you're just tuning in, you are listening to the Venus Rising Show, coming to you live from Tucson, Arizona on KMKR, LP 99.9 FM. And today I have a wonderful guest. I have Vasanta Weiss, who sings and leads a Kirtan-based band called Savitur. And I went out last Thursday night and participated in Kirtan with her group and was very, very, I really enjoyed it a lot. Anyway, and Vasanta afterwards gave me a few moments of her time and we had a little interview, and that's what you're going to hear next. So I hope you enjoy. It's Vasanta Weiss and Savitur. It's S-A-V as in Victor, I-T-U-R. All right, enjoy the interview. Welcome to KMKR. We are talking to Vasanta from, what is your band's name?
Savitur.
Savitur. So tell me, I had such an enjoyable evening tonight, just listening and chanting and having just a sense of being able to feel like I was relaxing deep inside.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming out.
So this is on a cold night.
Yeah, this is a yearly event as part of the Gem Show that Kati Astraeir of Solar Culture and Galactic Center, she runs this series of events, every February at Gem Show time, and we're honored to be included.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and so, then we also have, we were having also a regular Kirtan at the Galactic Center while that place was still going on. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately that shut down, but they're continuing the programming and the series and things that they do here at Solar Culture, which is a beautiful venue.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It has amazing acoustics and just a great sound system. And
so you mean I lucked out on a once a year event?
Yeah, in a way, yes, because we hadn't been around in a while, but we hope to resume the kirtans. Yeah.
So how long,
every few months.
How long have you been playing together as a band?
We've been playing together at probably 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Wow. And how did you get started?
Well, that's a bit of a long story, but I've always been in music and singing and piano, and a harmonium is just an extension of that. Mm-hmm. And when I kind of got back into, music was not as present in my life for some years, but was dealing with the sickness of a close family member, and a lot of this music, a lot of the chants is kind of I grew up in this tradition, the spiritual tradition, and so as a kind of comfort to my grandmother and to myself, and my brother at the time was also involved. We performed this music for my grandmother while she was ill, and eventually when she was in hospice as well, and it sort of grew from there, that collective.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to start playing this particular, not this particular music, but in any particular music, to have it be part of your culture and part of helping a loved one as they're crossing over. And
exactly.
And I'm sure she loved it.
Yeah, I think we were able to connect with her because there was a time where she really wasn't able to communicate, but I could, verbally at least, and so I felt like we were able to connect on that different level,
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, well, it was a comfort as much probably to us as it was to her, because it made us feel like we could offer her something, So yeah, that's how there was sort of this reemergence of this type of music, as well as actually music in general for me at that time. That was about 5-6 years ago.
And so before that, when you were younger, you played piano and all that kind of stuff.
And then singing in choirs and all that. Yeah.
Right, yes. And a harmonium, tell us about a harmonium.
Yeah, harmonium is basically it's just a small keyboard, kind of a cross between a hand organ and an accordion. So it uses bellows the air pumps through and produces the sound. And so you pump it with the left hand typically, if you're right-handed, and then you play with the right hand. And I'm somewhat of a beginner. There's a whole skill to and developed art to harmonium playing in India. But it, this music and how we play it, kind of we introduce these textures that are both from the more ancient tradition, or that evoke sort of the Eastern culture, and as well as some of these more Western sounds, like introducing Rudy's banjo.
Well, the thing that's interesting about, as I'm sitting here thinking about that, the banjo came from Africa.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
Actually, exactly right. And it's
and now it's sort of been incorporated into, now it's kind of a core element of bluegrass.
It was part of probably America's first fusion music was banjos and fiddles, which became our bluegrass tradition.
Right, exactly, yes. You're right.
That was actually a fusion.
Yes. So in a way, he's really kind of bringing it back to its roots, and he incorporates a lot of the bluegrass sound, but also he's able to evoke almost a sitar-like sound.
He does.
Yes.
He really does.
He's extremely proficient. He's bluegrass champion, banjo champion multiple times over.
I don't know.
I didn't
know that. Oh my, how impressive!
In Arizona and Four Corners and all that. So he's, he's very humble, but he's extremely gifted, and we're very fortunate to play with him. So
has he been in the band since the beginning?
Yes, pretty much. Oh. Yeah, not quite the beginning, but soon after that.
Okay. And then I noticed you also had a tabla player.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Sean is very much part of the collective and really brings in that beautiful sound and texture, and he and Rudy really play well off each other. And,
I could tell that there was a nice chemistry between them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's,
between
it's
all
lovely.
three of you, actually.
Oh, well, thank you. We've played a fair amount together, and we hope to build that more. And it's difficult to find venues where you can really bring this music to. And we actually have different variations of our collective. So we have a larger collective where we bring in a bassist and other hand percussion and cajon,
nice.
as well as acoustic guitar. And so we have played in that, in that setting as well. But again, difficult to find the venues. Typically, we've played at Govinda's, and sometimes they have festivals, and we play for that from time to time, and that's always great. And the atmosphere is very welcoming and receptive. But apart from that, Kati and Solar Culture and Galactic Center has really been
obviously
a great
they
home
love
for
you
us.
guys.
Yeah. So they've been great.
Come
they've
more
been great to us.
often. Yes, that's a cool thing to hear somebody say. Yeah. Right.
So, yes. So it's great to see people interested and engaged in this ancient and yet very modern in terms of how it can still connect to us, connect us to our deeper selves, make us think outside of just our temporary, states, physical states, emotional states, mental states. You might imagine Ganesh jumping on a train. That's what this song evokes. We have the train behind us.
So talk to me a little bit more about the spiritual aspect of Kirtan.
Right. So, Kirtan is basically call and response chanting, and it's basically a form of meditation in a way, that's that involves not only the individual but the community, and the chants that are incorporated that are designed to be repeated. That's the key element of Kirtan, as you appreciated this evening. There's a lot of repetition.
Yes.
And just with that continued repetition, it sort of takes us out of our mental our mental states, or the things that are on our mind, the things that are bothering us, our worries or anxieties, and we kind of start to resonate with those sounds, and those vibrations that in many ways are ancient sacred chants, and people have been chanting these for thousands of years, and perhaps not these exact melodies, but the same sounds,
right?
And so there's a potency and a power to that lineage, to that history, to the repetition, and the more that one sort of chants it and really feels it, the more you sort of get tapped into that deeper self, Yeah. So that's the spiritual aspect of it, and it's not, though it's quite a common thing that you'll find in, say, the Hindu religion. It's certainly not unique to any religion. It's really meant to, the meanings or the translations of these chants is very universal. Yeah.
Well, come to think of it, I didn't think of it that way, but like meditation, and I would suppose different type of chants are universal in some way.
Yes.
That each culture comes up with their own variation.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And in many ways, especially as you listen to some of this music, you'll find that perhaps knowing the English translation is perhaps not as absolutely necessary to understanding or feeling the intrinsic meaning in the sound.
Yes. I love that. Wow.
Yeah. And I really realized that when Rudy brought that Lakota Sioux, the Lakota healing chant, when he brought that one to the group, because I really didn't know the translation. In fact, it's a bit of an esoteric, as are some of these things, and but even without knowing the translation, I kind of felt the energy and the resonance and the transcendent nature of that chant, and that's kind of really what it's trying to tap into, that deeper self within. So yeah, it's interesting how that works.
And just like the fact that it's a universal need for human beings to have that sense of connection with yourself, with spirit, with the earth, with and going into that place of. I'm just imagining going into it as my eyes kind of closed.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
I can't think of how to describe it exactly.
Right, and then that's exactly it. It is something that is difficult to describe. It's something more that's felt, and then the power of it is further amplified by the collective chanting. Yes, the more people chanting it, it kind of amplifies the power of it, and it, it not only leaves us, maybe perhaps in the moment when we're chanting, if we're really worried about something, we may not feel at that moment the power of it, but there's this ripple effect, where it sort of sits with you, and then you kind of, that calm kind of sinks in,
That sounds so good.
Yeah, so we always feel very uplifted when we do the chanting.
I bet you do. I bet you leave kind of refreshed yourself.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Wow. So. Well, I should probably ask you, where can people find out when you're playing?
Yeah, so mostly our social media presence is on Facebook.
Okay.
So we post regularly.
And under
Savitur.
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 Correct. Sav as in Victor, right?
Oh, V as in Victor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Savitur Music. If you look under Savitur Music on Facebook, you can find us and see where we're playing next.
Nice.
But thank you for asking.
Vasanta, thank you so much for taking a few moments. I know it's always sort of a big challenge of getting all torn down and getting everything put away again after a gig.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to.
I'm so happy. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.